So Srivas, he says, Adam, you need to visit me. I just hit 6 taps at the new brew pub. Hellas, West Coast Pills, American Pale, Mexican Amber Lager, New Zealand Hazy Pills, West Coast Dip Hop IPA. Yeah, I mean, you have my lineup of beer right there. I love it. September, I was this close to saying, like, because I think it's 0.85 bar. Don't push me to bar, okay? Because I will. September has a couple of questions. DJ, you're welcome, brother. I'm so excited to see you in the chat. How dare you? September asked a question earlier. I'm going to jump back to it and then jump to what you just said. September. So let's see here. He said, this is from September and June. I've got a question for you. Adam makes me all hot and bothered. The first time anybody has ever said that. Considering most kegs are only cleaned with a caustic and maybe an acid, why or why not would you finish a tank on the cold side with a sanitizer like peracetic acid? If there's a chance for oxidation with them, when is sanitation ever really ever a must do? So this is interesting. And then he follows it up down here with, so Adam, why use an oxidizing sanitizer? Goodness, an oxidizing sanitizer on the cold side if there's a chance for oxidized character? You need to do caustic on kegs. Is sanitizing needed? So this is a really interesting question because, you know, I know there's places out there that do different things. So I know that if I run a full caustic and then consequently acid cycle on a fermenter, I can swab that and it will read 0. Okay, so that means it's clean, and good for product. Now, I know that if I am going to clean and seal or like button up a tank or like seal up a tank for next day's use, whether it be a fermenter or a bright tank, I will run caustic, acid, peracetic acid, and then I will put 5 psi on that tank of CO2 pressure. And then I will blow out that tank with the idea of it being dry the next morning. I was thinking about, at Sonder, we use steam on the cold side. So we have a caustic wash, rinse, steam sanitize. And obviously heat's going to take care of everything in that situation, right? And believe me, that thing is blazing hot when it's coming off of there. So, you know, it's left me thinking if you're in a situation where you don't have steam sanitized kegs, which is most of us out there, there's a part of me that, yeah, I mean, I want the sanitizer in there. It's still a little bit difficult for me to be cleaning a tank and have the 0 reading and then run into that, even though, like, when you look at here's the book, and I actually need to look up some things in this, so I need to take this out. I mean, you'll see that in the Master Brewers Association Brewery Cleaning Equipment Procedures and Troubleshooting by Richard J. Wrench. Cool book. A lot of technical stuff in it. Good stuff and practical. Good stuff. But it's still a little bit of a hurdle for me. So one of the things I was thinking of is if I was in a situation where I had to use chemical sanitizer, I would probably, and this, you can say I'm crazy. What I used to do was I used to take kegs and then blow them out before I filled them. So I would take a keg coupler, and you could put a valve on each side or just cap one side and the out. But then I would engage it on a keg and then cover it with my hand and open up the out valve, and it would blast out kind of some residual peracetic that was in there. That's one thing to do. I would be really tempted if you're on the smaller pub side and had a little bit more time to fiddle. I would be tempted to wash those kegs, caustic acid, Peracetic, whatever, but get it through your Peracetic. Have them go upside down. If there's room in your cold room, I love to I love to store them in the cold room. But then I was thinking about a way of like maybe leaving them upside down, and then having like a workspace to put them up and like blow them down a little bit to blast anything that collected in like the top of the spear, basically upside when the keg's upside down. I don't know. I'm thinking it out, but I understand your concern. For me personally, you do want to take whatever measures you can to make sure that oxidizer is getting out of your keg 100%. Something that's always important is to be hitting an appropriate range for your chemical titration with that stuff. You don't want to just be blasting, straight, vinegar into that thing. And, I don't know, make sure. And if it makes you feel a little bit better, be like in the lower portion, maybe the lower 25% of the acceptable range for that chemical, if that makes you feel better about it a little bit. So you're still in the sanitizing range, but you're not crazy intense either. But think about ways to blast that out. But I'm increasingly, the more I think about just like production in general, I'm more and more a fan of the idea of, say you have, you're gonna brew 3 days in a row, and you have 3 clean fermenters, and you could just turn Peracetic on all 3 of them and button them up, and then you have, the next day is 1, 2, and then 3, and you can brew 3 days, because that's kind of the rule of thumb that we use. We'll give it a 3-day window, sealed with Peracetic. But yeah, I think there's some interesting options there, but I would chase that idea of, all right, so can I do a thing? Can I have a situation where I can sanitize a tank the day ahead of time, get some pressure on it, potentially purge it if it needs to be purged? I don't know what kind of vessel it is, whether it's bright tank or fermenter. And then, prior to filling, next morning, go in and blast that thing out the bottom. You're probably going to have a dry surface inside, which is going to be much more what you want to be having in that scenario. So that's my take on it, September. I hope there's something valuable in there. September says, I've stopped using Peracetic post-fermentation, kegs, etc. It doesn't make sense to me to have the possibility for no reason. Yeah, I get what you're saying. It would obviously, if you're, it makes me nervous. It feels like a leap. I get where you're coming from with it. There's part of me that wonders, maybe what about like an appropriately mixed iodine solution? Because I don't believe that's going to oxidize. I don't believe that does its thing in an oxidizing fashion. I could be super wrong. So you're welcome, boyfriend. Man, we got the best people in the chat. I don't care what anybody says. Like, people are commenting on the people in the Adam Makes Beer chat. Have you ever really heard of someone altering their oxygen levels other than HEF to achieve different results? If so, who, and do you believe it? I do not. September, that's one of the things I love about you, dude. I will say, I would be some of the yeast strains that I think might be most effective by that are potentially some of the more expressive yeast strains. I know you have a really solid basis on the Belgian side of things. I think that can be an underrated thing when it comes to Belgian yeast. Now, I'm a big fan of appropriate fermentations, bottle conditioning those beers and whatnot. But yeah. I don't know. I feel like you might be. Well, yeah. I think I can say that with love. I think you are grumpy and stubborn. You have the capacity to be grumpy and the capacity to be stubborn, but your ear is also open too. Srivas, are modified yeast nutrients a big thing in the U.S.? And I'm gonna have to ask you what a modified yeast nutrient is. Yeah, let me know what you mean by that, because I might know what you're talking about, but we just might be using different terminology. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. If you feel as if you got any value out of the video, please like and subscribe. There are also other videos that you can watch. They're gonna maybe be over here or over here. Appreciate you watching.